I'm on a quest to find music and art. Supporting local talent is the place I start. Yeah, this is our culture, the place to be. Games, books, arts, and crafts and jewelry. This the guardians of the geekery. 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 And now for today's episode of Guardians of the Geekery with your hosts, Matt, Carol, and Joey.
All right, Guardians of the Geekery, special The Geekery Market edition, coming to you with over 30,000 square feet of geeky goodness on Saturday, November 4th, 2023. In case you're listening to this in the year 2032, this is 2023. Don't go on November 4th then. 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's going to be awesome at the Cabarrus Arena and Events Center. Again, 30,000 square feet of geekery. Joey, pretty awesome.
2,200 square spaces of parking too. So for those of you who've been to the market in the past and have been like, I had to park 5,000 miles away. You may still have to park a bit away because let's face it, a lot of people come to the market, but at least there's a space. There's a space on property for you. So that's good.
And the geekery market's a safe space as well and very inclusive.
Yes, very inclusive. We don't care who you are. You are welcome. I had to get that in there. And before we get too far, I just want to point out I have little Dalek Barrettes on. Little Shop of Horror, who will also be at the market, made those. And I told her that I was wearing them, but then realized on camera you really can't see them, but they're there. So anyway, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about our friend Susan, who has 3 personas. She has multiple personality disorder. No, I make fun, but you are going to be on 2 adjacent spaces representing your 2 writing pen names, as well as your shop, the Snark Shop. So tell us a little bit about your writings and the 2 personas and what the difference in the genres is.
Okay. Well, I have been publishing a little over 12 years now. I originally started out writing romance under the name Siobhan Kincaid. Oddly enough, tying back into the whole geekery thing, that was the name of a Dungeons and Dragons character that I used to play quite regularly. Oh. She's a half-elf thief, and she was, well, a little bit psychotic. And it just, I don't know. I love that character. I miss being able to play her, so she still gets to live on, in that alter ego. I needed a name. It was the first thing that came to mind, and it just kind of stuck. It was about, I guess, a year and a half after I started publishing romance that I published my first book under a variation of my own name. As a matter of fact, it was this one sitting here, Armageddon Rising, which has since been republished. But that's another story. Yeah, so I can't remember a time when I wasn't writing. It's always just kind of been there, and I don't know, I feel lucky to be able to actually do something with it and make money from it. So
if you could describe your work in like one sentence, how would you describe each of the 2 different personas you write under?
Weird.
We're looking for differentiators here.
Well, it's
romance, weird, sci-fi.
Romantic, weird, and what the hell is wrong with you, weird? So kind of the stuff under my name is dark fantasy, some of bordering on horror, all the strange and unusual speculative stuff that really doesn't fit anywhere else. And then the romance, it's a whole mix of paranormal, contemporary, whatever kind of critter happens to go through my mind at the time. This one, as a matter of fact, this one is up on pre-order right now, and it's very contemporary, and as you can see, it's cowboys, and it's gonna fall over, but it's
Cowboys are better on their backs anyway. It's fine. When it comes to
I wasn't
romance.
gonna say that.
Yeah, so I did.
Yeah, it's the romance is definitely not your average run-of-the-mill romance. Some of it gets very strange, some of it can get very dark, but it always has a happy ending, and I enjoy it. So I hope everybody else does too.
Do you tend to write one story at a time or two books
Oh,
at a
oh
time?
heavens,
or-
no, 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 no. It's a carousel. There
Yeah.
are any number of things going on because that's the beauty of ADHD. I have a head full of squirrels, and all of them want to do different things.
Fair enough.
Hence, two pen names and all of that. But yeah, so at any given time, there's probably 4 or 5 different things on the carousel going around through my brain. So
How do you wrangle the squirrels or the cats? How do you?
not very well.
Not really.
Yeah. Tell me
They're
about it.
totally in charge. I have no control.
Okay.
I
Say
I
hello to
do what they tell
everybody.
me to do.
And then go say goodbye. You're
Oh,
Oh, kitty!
say hi, Persephone.
oh, so
Hi,
cute.
Persephone.
Persephone's such
I'm
a
surprised my
brat.
boys aren't over here with their faces stuck in the camera.
It's like she was perfectly fine. She was asleep right before we hit record. And
And then she heard your voice,
She heard
Susan,
my
and she's
voice.
like, I must see the lady.
She's like, makeup. I gotta get on camera. There we go.
I am important,
Okay.
Mom. Most important visitor in the show.
Yes.
Now, on top of doing your writing, you've also done some slush pile reading and editing and stuff like that as well. Is that correct? Am I remember
Yes.
correctly?
Yes, I do some developmental editing for Falstaff books. I also do cover art and formatting on a freelance basis, as well as for a couple of different local publishers. All the different parts of publishing I had to kind of learn out of necessity, because it's really not an easy market for an independent artist these days. And I would much rather be able to have a good cover and properly formatted book and make sure that everything is professionally packaged. So part of that's the ADHD, part of it is just me being a micromanager. But yeah, so
So this is a great time for your typical question, Carol, because now we're not just having a writer, we're also having an
So
editor
before we
in
move
here.
on, if you have one piece of advice for writers, what would it be?
hire an editor. Please, 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 please hire an editor. It doesn't matter how many times we read our own stuff, how good we think it is. We're never going to catch our own mistakes. We're not perfect creatures. If we were, this would be a very different world. But please, yes, editors are a necessity. And that is very much my soapbox every time I get on it. Hire an editor. Don't listen to people who tell you you don't need one, because you really do. Even if it's just somebody to go through and fix your grammar and your typos, have an editor.
You get that blindness, don't you, after you've reread your own work so much that you may have spent hours on a particular paragraph, and therefore you don't want to cut it because of all the effort you put in, even though it may be just muddying up the story, or that one phrase that you thought was so perfect just really isn't. So
Well, I mean, as the writers, our brains know what's supposed to be happening. And I mean, if we mess something up, or we, miss a word or something like that, with English being the weird trash can that it is, your brain knows to put things in whatever order makes the most sense, even if the word is missing. A lot of times you don't see it until somebody else points it out. And, I'm learning that the hard way. As a matter of fact, I've got a book with an editor right now, and she got about 4 chapters in and then just started yelling at me saying, okay, so you completely missed the entire description of what's going on here. I don't know what's happening. And I realized, I know what's going
about
on.
it in your head.
Here, let me crack open my brain, scrub it out, smear it on the page. But it's those kinds of things. You don't see your plot holes. So you really do. Everybody needs some help.
that's awesome. Thank you for that. That was really good. Okay, no, that's great. So tell us about the Snark shop. Tell us about some of the stuff that you're going to be bringing.
Well, it started because, again, the squirrels cannot be sighted, so there's always something going on. I've been crafting things, making my entire life. And I finally realized I have all this stuff sitting in my house that I've made and I have nothing to do with it. So why not start selling it? And it actually worked. It's kind of a fluke and it worked. And I got excited. And of course, one thing worked. So here, let's try this and let's try this and let's try this. And suddenly I've got 18 different things going on. So, it started. My mother gave me a Cricut for Christmas, which was kind of the beginning of the end. And, the vinyl, making the stickers, all that kind of stuff is a whole lot of fun. And I said, well, there are other things we can do. So next thing I know, here I go buying a sublimation printer. And then I ended up with another printer. And between the sewing machine, which I really got back into sewing, when the world shut down, that was my sanity for a year and a half, was making masks and shipping them all over the country.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
we would not. Matt and I got some of your masks because you were able to help us with our big heads get masks out.
And it's funny. That's actually I sent out more masks with people asking if I could make them just a little bit longer or a little bit wider than anything else, because that was my way of keeping myself sane. And I think in a year and a half, I sent out something like 2,200 masks.
Oh,
That's all I did. I mean, my girls were sitting at the table and they were in virtual school. So I was here, making sure they were paying attention. And I didn't leave my house for a year and a half, except a weekly post office run. And it just kind of grew from there. I am still making the masks, but I do all this other stuff as well. I've got, I don't even know what I did with them right here, things like this that I've been doing, that I've made for my kids and for their friends. They're little coloring book totes. You put your crayons or markers across the front, and then you put your coloring books inside. And
that is so cool.
That is awesome.
I love that.
It's little things like that. And it grew from that to wallets and little pouches and tote bags and purses and just all kinds of craziness. We have the tumblers. This one is my favorite, my poison tumbler, because it's so ridiculous. And you'd be amazed.
Poison, for those who can't read it on the screen. There you go.
Behind the camera. There we go. Yeah, this one gets a whole lot of really fun looks from people if you're carrying around in public.
Because it is called shop, folks. There's a reason. So
would it make a difference if it's filtered poison?
Might not act as fast. I don't. No, I don't know.
Might go down easier.
I was bored. And this is what happens when I get bored. But it's the idea of the Snark shop grew out of the fact that I am very sarcastic by nature. And most of the stuff that I do, I like the funnier things, the stuff you don't necessarily see on a shelf when you go into a little boutique in like downtown Rock Hill or something like that. And there seems to be a market for sarcasm that is growing. And so it's a lot of it
it's more visible than it was. Like we're a little less afraid to put on our shirts or our mugs or whatever, what we're thinking.
Well, either that or I think we've just gotten tired of censoring ourselves to a certain point. I mean, my filter's totally gone. And usually what I say comes out of my mouth before I can stop myself. And it's not always
one of us. So
the Snark is strong. So, yes. It started with ridiculous little stickers, turned into, one of my personal favorites.
Yes.
Because you see that all the time. It's even better when it's, that and it's the wrong version of yours.
Yeah.
No. So, and then, little like nerdy D&D style stickers. I mean, it's whatever silly thing happens to go through my head, I end up making it, and there's always somebody that's going to laugh at it.
So in your description of what you're bringing, you said HVT. That's heat vinyl transfer, right?
Yeah, the heat transfer vinyl. Yes.
Heat transfer HTV, which I got excited for a second because I thought it was HGTV, and then the So I was
Oh,
like,
that could be
easy.
fun.
And then I was still
mean-
excited, but just for those people who are not as knowledgeable. So
Yes, it is heat transfer vinyl. It's things like this.
Okay.
and
And
then
it's- Mhm.
and then the other thing is sublimation. And what's the difference between the two?
Okay, so the heat transfer vinyl, I think all the rolls back over here hanging up there, that's my vinyl collection. Some of it is like a sticker. It's like the decals you put on the back of your car.
Mhm.
It's a similar type of material, but the adhesive is activated by heat. So you cut it and you place it and you basically iron it on. I have a heat press over here. You press it on, and then when it's cool, you peel the liner off and you get nice, pretty, ridiculous, snarky things. Sublimation, these are sublimation. It is a special type of ink that what it does when you apply heat and pressure to it, it turns into a gas. And then the coating that's on these, it's a special type of material. I mean, generally it's a synthetic material. If you're doing sublimation on fabric, it has to be polyester or nylon, something like that, where when the heat hits it, the fibers open up.
Mhm.
And the gas actually works itself into the surface. So this, with nothing else on it, it's a permanent finish.
Oh,
So
That's
you print it,
awesome.
you wrap it, you heat, and then you get fun image.
Oh,
You know,
interesting.
the vinyl is technically permanent. It's not as permanent as this because this is actually, it's
Becomes like a part of it.
like a dye. It's like a gaseous dye.
Hmm.
And it becomes part of the surface. You don't have to put any kind of coating or anything on it. These do not have any kind of resin or sealer or anything on them. They don't have to. Now, if I were to add glitter to it, you know, I've actually got my cup right here, one of the ones that I made. This does have resin over the top because even though there's sublimation up here with the image, the glitter's got to have something to seal it in.
But the others don't have to be sealed.
No.
See, we learned something new today, don't we?
Yeah.
I feel a little smarter. Just a little. So if people wanted to go and look at your stuff, either your books or your Snark shop, where would they go and find you? And are you accepting pre-orders so that if people wanted to order things ahead of the show and pick it up at the show, could they do that?
Absolutely. I do have a limited selection of stuff in my Etsy store. It's the Snark Shop SC. That is the name of the store on Etsy. There are tumblers and some stickers, decals, things like that. There will be more as we go on. It's just getting everything up. It takes a minute to get those listings going.
Yeah.
As far as the books go, everything is up on Amazon. I believe everything in my catalog is available in Kindle Unlimited right now. I'm usually lurking around Facebook somewhere, can be found. As far as the pre-orders, I don't have the form ready yet. But I mean, if somebody wants, you can find me on Facebook, send a message through the shop, things like that. There are plenty of ways to get in touch with me. And then once I finally get that up, it'll actually be up on the Snark Shop's Facebook page.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, Susan, thank you so much for spending some time with us. It's always fun to hang out together. I miss our pre-COVID. Susan and I would hang out on a pretty weekly basis for a while as part of a writers group, and she had the best pens. I just need to say that. So she also was one of the only one of us who actually wrote out her work while the rest of us typed away. But she got it done.
For that.
Mine is still in progress. So we won't talk about that. But thank you so much for being on, and we look forward to seeing you on Saturday, November 4th. So
thank you for having me, and I'm looking forward to it. It's so good to see y'all again.
too.
Bye.
That was an episode of Guardians of the Geekery. Thank you for listening. Check us out at guardiansofthegeekery.com and stay tuned for more content.